Hello, my name's Alex. A few days ago, I went to a music festival where I caught COVID-19 and I'm now self-isolating for 10 days. Every single day throughout these 10 days, I'm going to be recording a podcast with someone interesting or cool, and I want to find out more about their passions, hobbies, and life. Hopefully, this will stop me from going insane. We'll find out together. Welcome to the RONA CHATS. Enjoy.
Episode 2, here we are. I've still got COVID, I'm still inside and I'm still in this chair, have not left since yesterday. Today we are joined by none other than Omar Süleyman, who is a lovely dear friend of mine, a photographer, musician. Omar, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
I'm good, I'm living the dream. You know, I'm still inside, I haven't lost my mind just yet, but
You've lost your taste.
I've lost my taste. Yeah, that has gone. Well, nah, my taste is at like 30%. So I made a chili last night, and I just put a shit ton of like salt and tomato puree and spicy shit. So yeah, I've been having loads of Marmite on toast because that's the only thing I can like properly taste. But it's a layer of Marmite about that thick. So it's tough. I won't lie, it's tough. But yeah,
Sure.
how are you finding the end of the world?
It's been interesting.
Okay.
It's been a really interesting thing, kind of like going through all of this, because like where we're at now is completely different to where we were at the beginning. But like we're doing this call, and it kind of feels like a blast back to like how it was at the beginning. Like can't leave our houses, have to communicate through like Zoom and all of that stuff.
Well, that was one thing I was kind of like hesitant about doing this because I think that in a year's time, in 2 years' time, we as a kind of like as consumers and entertainment consumers won't want to look back, I think, at quarantine media. So, for example, Staged, which was Michael Sheen and David Tennant, that were basically rehearsing a play through a Zoom call. It was a good comedy. But I think that kind of stuff has a very limited lifespan of being actually able to enjoy it. I think that we won't want to look back. I think anyway that we won't want to look back on albums or certain things that were made in the context of COVID, because I think it's been a scary time. That's what I think anyway.
See, I think the complete opposite.
Okay, go for it.
I think even though we will look back in, there'll be that memory attached to kind of like what life was like in quarantine and like, you know, through arguably, you know, like the toughest year and a half that the world has seen in recent history. I think as creatives anyway, we'll look back at it in a way of finding it really, really interesting how we found these different ways to continue art, even when we went through times of it being really, really difficult to continue art in the way that we knew it. We can still have that. So looking back at all of the gigs that went on, whether it was kind of like gig from home that people live streamed, or if it was like Frank Carter played Brixton Academy with no people and all of the TV screens around.
Yeah.
Even like when Idols did like their Bally TV thing, like their interviews kind of like in a remote place through Zoom. I think the actual content of those things were incredible. Doesn't matter if there's people there or not. Like the kind of conversations, kind of performances we got were fantastic. It was just done in a slightly different context.
Yeah, I found that with the Architects Royal Albert Hall show, which was incredible. I think there's definitely a case to be made for stuff that I think what you're getting at is stuff that was made within that context and certainly seems a bit strange and different, but can kind of hold up. Like, for example, so the two things that come to mind: Architects from the Royal Albert Hall, and of course, how could I not mention Bo Burnham Inside?
So I hate to kind of be that guy,
Here he comes.
I've not seen it yet.
I would highly recommend it. I mean, I've been inside for a year and a half, much like anybody else, and I've been avidly consuming, and I, without a doubt, will say it is the best piece of COVID quarantine lockdown media. Full stop. It is like such a good representation of what the hell we just went through. I was like, because he's a comedian, he's a musician, but it's such a twist. Remember, I recommended to you Daniel Sloss.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, this is like comedy but therapy. Well, Bo Burnham, it's musical comedy but therapy. Trust me, you got to watch it.
Okay.
So I think it's a really excellent exploration into mental health and our kind of like are almost like what feel like parasocial relationships with each other through social media, which I think has become very prevalent. But I would highly recommend that. Well, I suppose bouncing off that, throughout the past 18 months, I've expressed my favourite, but what has been your favourite piece of quarantine media? The piece of art that was released in the context of COVID?
That's a really, really difficult one because there's been so much.
Yeah.
I mentioned it earlier on, but I think Bally TV by Idols, I think, was a really interesting way to do things. There was an episode with Kenny Beats and K Tempest, which was fantastic. Honestly, it was awesome. It was so good. The EP the Little Sims released.
Oh, Drop 6.
Oh, so good.
I'm looking for. I mean, her new album comes out in a month and 10 days. No, a month and 11 days, to be precise. I'm really looking forward to that. She is like, yeah. I mean, I already the singles from the new record. I'm like, ooh, this might be better than Grey Area.
Yeah, I think
I'm like, whoa. So. Yeah, Simbi about to change the world.
So she released Introvert, and I thought that was incredible.
Yeah, that it felt very Kendrick, like very To Pimp a Butterfly, Black of the Berry, Wesley's Theory. It had that, but a whole new spin. It had the passion, I feel like, of it, and the drive behind it. Introvert was incredible.
Even like Rolling Stone, like not
That's
the last
hard.
one, but the one before. Like it's so good, and I love the dynamics in that. Like I'm a big sucker for dynamics in music. And the fact that it starts off as this banger and then instantly like dips down to like this really nice, calm, kind of like introverted.
Yeah, a bit weird and a bit, yeah.
And then kind of like heads back up towards like the last few bars of the tune. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Like I was kind of saying when she was releasing her first singles to that, could well be album of the year.
I mean, was it 10 seconds into Introvert, I was like, oh, okay, so she wants album of the year. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Woman as well, the big Lauryn Hill influence. Big, especially I find the chorus of Introvert, so Lauryn Hill, the whole of Woman, it's like, I know what you're doing there.
Exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, I was a bit taken aback by just how different each song released sounds thus far. Because with Grey Area there was very much a quite a clear and succinct character, but then I think to other albums, other hip hop and grime albums, and that I enjoy, and thinking about it, my favorites are the ones that have really distinct different sounds on each song, but are able to blend that together well. I'm a 22-year-old white guy, so I've got to mention it. Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly. Every song follows the same theme and sound, but each song is really, really quite different. In you've got boom bap, you've got like just jazz bangers, you've got like ambient. So I'm okay with I'm totally down for an album that can do that that kind of vibe and flexibility.
But also, I think with Sims, like every single long-lasting hip hop artist has had a change in their music.
Oh yeah.
And that change in their music often signifies the fact that they're kind of like the artist is sick of doing what they're doing, or they want to explore new routes. And I think that's something that a lot of artists, not just in hip hop, but in the whole of the music industry, a lot of artists try and do this change in their style. Some bands do it really, really well, and it's received really well, like Queens of the Stone Age, like Black Keys, for example.
Yeah.
Black Keys' most recent album is a Louisiana blues album, and it sounds amazing. But the problem with kind of like consumers of music, especially reviewers, is the way in which after kind of like album 2, album 3, that's when the criticism starts. Like from album 3, that's when the criticism starts. If a band sticks with the sound that they've done for the previous 2 albums, even if it's a brilliant album, they'll go, oh well, they're playing it safe. They're doing like the stuff that they've always done.
Yeah.
Then if they change and people don't like it, they'll go, oh, why didn't they stick to their old thing? So it's kind of like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And that's one thing, like with reading it back to Sims, that's one thing I think she's done fantastic. Because when she released Grey Area, instantly she was playing much larger shows. Like she was having like social media kind of like hit loads more.
Yeah. Venom is now a TikTok hit.
Literally. And I think she's kind of noticed that with Grey Area and is continuing on with that. Because like she's been plugging away for years.
Over a decade now.
Yeah, like releasing some really, really good albums, but never quite breaking it. And it was so nice when she made that change with Grey Area.
Yeah.
And then it was received really, really well.
Yeah,
it's some amazing music.
I'm looking forward to it. I mean, she said on her Instagram story like yesterday where it was like, oh yeah, I was just warming up with Grey Area, and there's me go like, oh, it's gonna be amazing. Yeah. Did you know she went to my uni? And I was on the same.
Yeah, you mentioned.
Oh yeah, did I send? Yeah.
Yeah.
For those of you listening at home, I went to the same university as Little Sims and was on the exact same course. Although by 22, the age I am now, she had already been making some bangers. So it's like a drop 1 and drop 2 were recorded at my university, and I've only realized this a few weeks ago. I'm like, oh my god, they were recording in the basement studios where I've recorded. So that's some of my favorite mixtapes. So it's really cool. But now, so lots of good music to come, I suppose. What else are you I suppose looking forward? So now we've looked back at quarantine media and we've gone a bit of a tangent, but looking forward now that we're free, who are we expecting an album from? Who are you anticipating going to be dropping this year?
Last Friday, I was expecting an album from Kanye West, but
weren't we all, right?
But
8th of August now, isn't it?
6th of August.
Oh, that's when I'm. I think that's the day I'm free.
Yeah, I think it is as well.
Yeah.
Right, other artists that we're expecting albums from. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm saying SZA. She's got a drop.
Yep.
It's been a while. Kendrick. It's been 4 years. 4 years.
Okay, you've mentioned Kendrick a few times.
I know.
In my head, I've been saying, don't say it.
Go for it.
Overrated as fuck.
Ooh.
I don't understand the hype around To Pimp a Butterfly. Damn is an awesome album, and Good Kid, Mad City, whatever.
Yeah.
Is like they're both decent albums. I've tried listening to Pimp a Butterfly multiple times in different settings with stuff going on, with me just in my room, just listening to it kind of thing. I don't understand it. I don't understand why people think it's so good. It sounds like any Compton-based hip-hop album from the 90s. For me, I don't think it's anything special. Part of me is thinking, well, it might just be because I'm not in the right mindset.
Admittedly, the album is a lot of work. You can't it's
It's a long album as well.
yeah, it's long. I won't just like be like I'm gonna I know I'm gonna relax and listen to it. No, I'll be like, right, okay, gonna listen to it. It's like
Yeah.
it's like The Wall by Pink Floyd. I like you got to work for it.
Sure.
Whereas unlike something like Dark Side where you can just chill with it, but with The Wall it's like, right, focus. All right, here comes the operatic section. And you're like, yes, the operatic section. You got to work for it. But now,
I thought of a couple of bands.
Yeah, hit me.
That need to drop, and we're seeing two of them. Well, we're seeing both of them
Primavera.
within 1 day of each other.
Tame Impala? No, already dropped.
They've already dropped. I mean, it was in 2019, but they haven't done it since.
Yeah, fair.
Okay, so
Song Machine, Gorillaz.
part 2.
Waiting for season 2.
That will be good.
Yeah.
But here's my 2. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Have to drop. They have to release an album.
It's been a while, isn't it? It's been a while.
A very long time. And the other one, which has also been a while, is an artist that really, really close to my heart. MIA.
Yeah, you go. I knew it.
Literally, she has to drop before she plays Primavera.
Yeah.
Like,
her last album was
2016.
That's time.
It's a long time ago. But I'll tell you what, dude. So MIA is one of those artists that I've always listened to since she first. Well, since I don't think it was since she first released. I don't think I was old enough to really appreciate music then. But when I was old enough to really appreciate music, Carla was such an incredibly important album to me.
Yeah.
Especially like growing up as a brown man in the UK and not seeing many representations of people that look like me. So when MIA came into my life and I started really listening to what she says, it's the most popular song, but it's for a reason. Paper Planes is like literally, that song is so good. And really speaks to me as well as many other people in my community. So when she was announced for the Primavera lineup, best believe this guy was crying. The fact that I've been waiting so long to see her, I've been listening to her music for so long.
Yeah, man.
And now I'm going to be able to experience it live.
Yeah, that shit will pop live.
Yeah. I can't wait.
Yeah, it'd be great for the both of them to drop. Like, I'm really, yeah. Although I imagine, I mean, like, I could see it happening, even if it was just like some bits here and there.
Even if it's like an EP or a couple of singles.
Yeah.
That'd be really good.
I'd be totally okay with that because, like, with MIA, I want to know what she's doing now. Like, I really would love to get, because the industry has changed so much in the past 5 years, and the world as well. But like the sounds of music, and so it'd be interesting to see what she would do.
Yeah,
for
sure,
definitely.
Queens need to drop as well.
I think they will. I think, although they've pulled out of Reading and Leeds.
Yeah, so they pulled out of Reading and Leeds, because of travel issues, but also Josh Homme's going through like a proper messy divorce at the moment.
Oh, right.
So I don't think he's in a good space to perform. But then, like I've always said this, but some of the best art has come out of pain. So I think the next Queen's album, if there is one, because you never know, but if there's another Queen's album, I think that could be extremely brutal.
I would like to see a Queens of the Stone Age album soon. They're just really good live.
Yeah, they're incredible. I've seen them twice live. Once at Reading, then once at Finsbury Park when they created that festival a few years ago.
Yes.
And honestly, it was fantastic. Like they put on such a good live set. They really do. Like it. Like you get some artists that are like great showmen, performers, all of that stuff, and they'll interact with the audience loads. Then you get people that just go on, they play their music really well, and that's it. And then there's like an in-between, and that's Queens of the Stone Age.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a really nice bit like cheeky interaction with the audience, but their main thing here, play their music really fucking well. That's their main priority. And it's like, I've seen them twice already. my old man raised me on Songs for the Deaf and Rated R, and yeah, they're just, and they like overall they're such a good band, and it's really nice when such a good band kind of like replicates that level of quality and music in the album to when they're playing even higher levels of music when they're playing live.
Yeah, no, I get that big time. And it's interesting. You find that the bands you're kind of raised on, they're almost kind of like woven into your fabric, full stop. Like, yeah, Demon Days as an album for me, something, you know, I was raised on that album. I listened to it, like, I remember having my little iPod and I just played it over and over again. Yeah, I don't think like an album like that will ever leave my my library ever. Like, I still listen to it regularly. I think over the past like 16 years, I think it's been now, I've listened to it at least once every other week.
Yeah.
Just because it's so catchy and it's fantastic.
So I can't help but feel that, and correct me if I'm wrong, you might say an album, and I'm like, oh no, actually no, I'll take that back.
Hit me.
But I think Demon Days was the last era-defining album, because, like, if you look back from like, you know, 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, going all the way back, you had those albums, those significant albums that really defined like that time period.
Yeah.
And now that the way the music industry has gone, I don't think there's room for those era-defining albums anymore.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I think
because the thing is, right, Demon Days affected so many people. It was loved by so many people across all ages, across so many different countries, an overwhelming amount of countries. Now, that shit happened with like the Beatles and Pink Floyd and those like that era of music really affected so many people at different ages across the world. That's exactly what happened with Demon Days because of how monumental that album was.
I have to say that kind of like 2005 was a really fascinating time for music because you just had iPods and downloads. That's just a new thing, and the industry's still got like a shit ton of money going around in it, so that, you know, stuff can really like people can just throw money at projects like there's no tomorrow. I suppose to respond to where we're heading now, I think hindsight is able to give us those era-defining records. So I don't think we'd look back on an album from, say, 2016 or 17 and say that was era-defining because we're still kind of going through that era, and yet to find out really what album was of that time in a way. I mean, I'd say that, admittedly, I find it difficult to pinpoint an album that has been released since, that has been so cross genre, cross generational, and kind of like worldwide loved. Because you talk to anyone like our age, and they know what Demon Days is. My parents, they know Demon Days. My little brother knows Demon Days. But the only album that I can kind of, or at least kind of, because we definitely live in a singles world now. Albums are a dying art, which is sad. But I think a song like, say, Redbone, for example, which everybody knows.
I wouldn't say that's multi-generational though. Like don't get me wrong, a lot of people know it, but for a certain older generation, that's definitely a song of, oh, I love this song, but what is it? Kind of thing.
Yeah, there's not really they're not really caught up with it all.
No. Like in this conversation now, I'm thinking, right, in 15 years' time, what like huge albums are we gonna say, yeah, those were like era defining? First one that comes to my head is the first Billie Eilish album. But the thing is, that didn't affect like a lot of older people. That was purely like a younger person's thing.
Yeah.
So like although it's a big and very good album, I will say, it doesn't go in that category for me at all.
Yeah, the things that spring to mind are Currents by Tame Impala, Awaken My Love by Charles Gambino, and that first Billy album. Those are the ones that kind of come to me, but at the same time, if you're under 40, sorry, if you're over 40, chances are that you won't be like you wouldn't be able to really
Yeah, of course.
get into it back to back. I mean,
whereas
I think you can. I think you
Demon
can.
Days.
I think you can get into it, those albums. But I think that I know almost like through the internet, we've created a big generational divide. Although, or maybe this is what it's like growing up, but I've noticed a bigger generational divide where it's kind of like you've got tribes, you've got your zillennials, your boomers, your whatever, and it's people are very comfortable about staying within that ecosystem in a way, especially in music.
For sure. Like, I think there's a huge difference between what was a really big, like, time-defining moment for large generations and what's a big time-defining moment for the individual. So, like, last year, Rez Ahmed released his album Long Goodbye.
Yeah.
Now that's one of my most important albums. I listen to that like you do with Demon Days. I listen to that on a fortnightly basis, pretty much, sometimes even more. And that was an album that came at a perfect time for me because of shit that I was going through personally, mentally, all of that, and it just spoke to me perfectly. But there's like for me, I would put it in that category, but by no means would I put it in that category for other people. There will be a lot of other people that album would have hit in the same way that it hit me, but nowhere near enough to say, yeah, that was like of that time, that was era defining.
It's almost like the albums released now are much more for different for like subcultures and different like very specific audiences. I think the internet has given that to us where we can fall into a niche much quicker rather than being general. I just thought of an album that is a staple and a generational point that came after Demon Days. Amy Winehouse, Black to Black. Like, that has to be, without a shadow of doubt. Like, even just like, because all right, in the same way, no one could tell you like, all right, if you don't like, my parents, for example, they couldn't tell you the song listing from Demon Days, but they're like, Demon Days is a great album. Everyone knows the bangers from Amy Winehouse. Everyone does. Like, she was such a force. Like, and we look back on her now. Like, what's really weird is seeing kids born in like 2004 and 2005 being like, oh, I wish I was like old enough to listen to Amy Winehouse's music. It's crazy that I was alive when she was alive. I'm like, wow. Like these kids are thinking are talking about Amy Winehouse in the way that I don't know, like we would talk about fucking, I don't know, John Lennon or whoever. It's like, oh, we really missed out on that icon. We really missed out on that. And I find that amazing. I find that weird because I remember like being a kid and seeing like Amy Winehouse on TV. I know that friends of the family had seen her, and it's weird seeing like 2004 2005 kids being like, oh wow, can't believe you were alive at a time like that. It's a bit strange.
I can't even believe there's people that were born after 2000. Well, I'm like someone, oh, when we born 2000, and I'm like,
yeah,
no.
It's scary. But yeah, Amy fucking Winehouse.
Yeah, I think. So you know what? It's really interesting you should bring up Amy Winehouse actually, because I was thinking this the other day it was the 10-year anniversary of her death.
Yeah,
and Christ. I was thinking like when she was alive, I was never really like into her music. I was too young to appreciate music in the way I do now. And whenever I'd hear about Amy Winehouse, it was always negative things. It was always like not great things. So it would be, Frankie Boyle making a like an awful joke about her.
Yeah.
Or it was my grandparents who listened to her music and said, "Oh, she's a horrible person. She does drugs. She, oh, did you hear she played a festival and she had to go off because she was so drunk and all of that." And I never really had much compassion for her. I wasn't old enough to understand what compassion was. I was, 8, 9 years old. But when I watched the film Amy, that completely changed my life, genuinely, because it was at that point that I stopped having no compassion for musicians that were struggling with addiction. Before I watched that film, I was very much, oh, well, they're on drugs. Oh, it's their fault for all of the shit they're going through. Oh, yeah, you make good art, but what are you doing to your body and all of that stuff? And that film really made me appreciate the fact that it's not as easy as that. That issue is nowhere near as simple as that.
Yeah, because I mean, we as humans are not meant to go out on stages in front of 10,000 people where everyone's looking and screaming our name. We didn't evolve to do that. That's unnatural. Like, that is so unnatural. What else can you do yet? Like, medicate. Like, I mean, I'd love to get into music, but I do not want to be at, like, say, a Billie Eilish level where, oh my God, like 10,000 people all just like script. Like, I that's too much. Like, I'm mentioning Billie Eilish a lot, but oh my God, I'm impressed how put together she is for a 18-year-old who is quite literally the biggest pop star in the world right now. I am shocked. Like, I mean, regardless of her, how she's feeling, she needs therapy. Like, even if she's feeling good, she needs therapy. Like, you can't do that and not lose your mind.
Yeah, I look at someone like Billie Eilish and, incredible artist,
Yeah,
incredible performer, and I think it's amazing kind of message that she's bringing out to young girls. However, I just get scared for her.
I do.
I really do, because, like you say, it's not natural for people, for like us humans, to be performing in front of 10,000 people, to have 10,000 people all having their attention fixated on us.
Yeah.
So the fact that she started having that kind of attention from the age of 16, 17,
Yeah, 17 was when she properly blew up.
that is so much pressure.
Yeah.
And like, she's already, like, on like social media, made jokes about her like wanting to die and all of that stuff. And like that, like I mean, regardless of that, but also that on top of this as well, she really, really needs to be careful, and she needs to make sure she has a lot of people around her looking after her.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, obviously, it's a bit of a rocky road subject, but if we look at Michael Jackson, for example,
I was thinking that. Yeah.
like, he started off so young, forced into all of the, all of this performance and music creativity, and you could literally see what that was doing to him. Like, obviously, I'm very much in the camp of he was a wrong-un, and I can't listen to his music as well, because personally, I've cancelled him and all of that stuff. But that's my take and my opinion on what I've seen in front of me with his situation. But not to kind of like, because that is like a massive rabbit hole. But so it's not to like to ignore that rabbit hole and just to look at Michael Jackson in comparison with Billie Eilish, both artists starting very, very young. And we saw what it did to Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
So hopefully there's people around Billie Eilish who have also seen what it's done to Michael Jackson and other young artists, and go, you know what, we need to make sure that she's looked after, put her in bubble wrap, do everything we can to make sure that she's safe.
Yeah. I think she tours way too much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's doing like, I think in 2019 she must have easily have done over 180 shows.
Yeah.
Easily, like, oh, yeah. I'm worried about her, and I don't know. She got a new album out yesterday, so I need to give that a listen, and I'm sure it's amazing. I've heard amazing things about it, but
I would personally, I hate to be that guy. I'd lower your expectations.
I mean, I've listened to some of the singles, and I'm a fan. Like NDA, oh man, that's incredible. I
Dude,
mean,
the
that's
singles
so
are
Kanye.
great. The singles are great, but it was such an underwhelming album.
Okay.
It really was. Like obviously art is subjective. You might listen to it and you're like, oh no, it's amazing. But for me, I just listened to it and I was just incredibly underwhelmed.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah,
Although I find that it's interesting because when we agree on stuff, we definitely agree, and when we disagree on stuff, we definitely disagree. For example, like Butterfly, Kendrick, Radiohead, like, because you're not you fucking hate Radiohead, I fucking loved it.
yeah.
And so yeah, so who knows? I might like it and you might dislike it. We shall see. We shall see.
That'll be part 2 of the podcast.
Yeah, man, absolutely, yeah. So I want to get out. What projects have you been working on? So I suppose, like, because I know you do some mixes of, like, are you still doing photography nowadays?
Nah, I don't do
Yeah.
photography anymore. Well, I've still got my ongoing project, which actually I have behind me.
Oh, very nice.
I've got my ongoing projects, which I'm never ever going to stop, but I can't continue that at the moment because I can't actually get out to Northern Cyprus.
Okay.
But other than that, it's just music.
Yeah. So what's in the pipeline in music then?
I've got about 5, 6 tunes that are kind of like ready to record. I'm just like, it's really, really difficult, right? Because this particular music project that I'm doing, like my solo stuff, I'm being really, really particular about it. And I'm not going to budge. Like, I've always been like this. If I want to do something, I'll do it my way or I won't do it at all.
Yeah.
So because of the delicacy of the project, I need to make sure that I'm only working with musicians from the same kind of background as me. So Middle Eastern and South Asian musicians. Because the messages in the music, what the subject matter is, and how personal it is to me, I can't have anyone that's it might sound a bit weird, but I can't have anyone that's not kind of been through what I've been through.
Yeah, because it's all following a very succinct direction, and so
exactly.
you need minds to back that up.
For sure.
Like, for example, I couldn't write an album about being from Northern Cyprus because I'm, funny enough, look at me, I'm not from Northern Cyprus. you might have guessed.
Mate, yeah, I had a little inkling.
A little bit, yeah. No, I totally get you.
But yeah, like I've written songs about my experience of racial abuse. I've written a song which I would say is probably the most controversial song I've written, about Shamima Begum.
Oh, okay,
yeah. Because I think what happened to her was extremely unfair, unlawful. And I've written a whole song about it. Written a song about Priti Patel and how much I love her.
Christ, yeah, she's got some fucking nerve.
The thing is, right, so like all of my music that I write is from like a brown perspective. It's all about, brown lives and Islamophobia and all of that stuff. And I have started to see slowly, a little bit too slowly for my liking, but it's happening, so I can't complain too much. But there's been a bit of a movement towards kind of like, for lack of a better term, like brown lives matter and Muslim lives matter, which has been really good. Like the rise in Free Palestine marches has been beautiful to watch. But then to see someone like Prissy Patel from this same background, who is a first or second gen immigrant in this country, quite clearly not British, like how your average conservative would describe it. And the thing she's doing is causing such a bad rep for people in our community, because the very notion of a brown Tory is contradictory. It doesn't work, because typically right-leaning policies demonize people in black and brown communities. So to have people from those communities that this party this party demonizes actually representing the party, it makes no sense whatsoever. So when you get people like Priti Patel that come along, and she's implementing all of these kind of like laws and everything, these policies that would have prevented her from being in the country in the first place if it happened when her previous generations came over here. It's just so sad to watch.
I have to say the Tories have struck gold with her.
Yeah, literally.
They're like she is a gift to them.
Yeah,
absolute gift.
Absolutely.
It's sad. It's really sad to see. I try and not look at politics that much anymore. Like a year ago, I was so invested, I'd be up to date with everything going on. So I don't look at like current politics. I love reading like political philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely.
That because it's almost like an escapism in a way, where I'm like, yes, let me delve into these wonderful utopian ideas. It's like reading. It's like keeping up with politics today is non-fiction, but I like my fiction, where I delve into philosophy and the ideals of society and how crowd mentality works and things like that. I find a lot of joy through that.
Reading all that Noam Chomsky.
Chomsky is a G. I'm going to begin to wrap this up, but I will ask you, in 365 days' time, do you think that you will still see human beings on the planet Earth? Do you think that we will all still be here? Because the end of the world is nigh. So what's going to happen over the next year in a paragraph or so?
I think COVID will still be around.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think that will be purely because of anti-vaxxers. I think a lot of people are still going to die from COVID, and an overwhelming percentage of them will still be because of anti-vaxxers. But no, man, like I think things will be fine. Like, I think if we do like looking shorter term in the future, I think if we don't have another lockdown in the next 3 months, I don't think we're going to see another lockdown at all. And I don't see any of the restriction eases being lifted. So being like imposed, taken back, kind of thing. I think it's going to be a long time for us to get back to normal, for us to get back to being able to hug and handshake strangers.
Yeah.
Like when you meet them for the first time, and it not be are you okay with this purely because of COVID? But this time next year we'll be good.
Excellent. Sure. Well, you heard it here first, folks. In a year's time, Omar reckons that we will be good. So I'll catch up with him in a year, and we'll be able to find out if his predictions were correct. I'll probably still be suffering with COVID. But thank you very much for tuning in to the RONA Chats.
Thank you very much for having me.
This has been episode 2. Be sure to tune in tomorrow. We've got some great guests. I thank Omar. Is there anything you want to plug?
Nothing to plug.
Nothing to plug. Just vibe.
Nothing to plug. Just yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you very much for watching. Tune in tomorrow, and also check out the other episodes. Yesterday we had Leon Parsons talking about the grassroots music scene in St Albans and drumming. So yeah, thanks very much for coming. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.